is what Gearz is all about.
Watching Gearz.
Hey, welcome to Gearz. Man, we have got a great show planned for you today because we're not only bringing back the rat roaster, but it's also time to finally show you what engine is going in that thing. You are going to love this. But wait, before we can do that, we got to bring everybody up to date. So here is what the rat roaster is. It started out as just a pile of metal at Brookville Roadsters, which they took and carefully formed into an all-steel 32 Ford body and frame, because that's what they do. Build top-quality, all-steel reproduction body. At that point, we brought all the parts into the shop, where Domino and I began building the chassis on what is going to be a late 60s style hot rod called the rat roaster. Now, the purpose of this project is first to show you that it's possible to build a really cool 32 and not spend a fortune. And second, to show you how to build a car that makes sense. You know, something that has the look and the feel and the style of what you want to drive, and then follow that through. Now, the idea behind this car is basically to build what would have been the baddest car in the Valley in '68. Basically American Graffiti 5 years later. Now, the problem is, in '68, man, you got Mustangs, you got Camaros, you got Roadrunners, you got Pontiacs running down the street. So how do you take a Deuce Roadster and not only make it cooler than those cars, but also make it outrun those cars? Well, first you're gonna have to start with a serious hot rod engine. You know, something that just screamed performance in '68. You know, probably something with multiple carbs on it. Now, obviously, it needs to be fast. I mean, it's the fastest thing in the Valley in '68. So it needs to be able to at least run the mid-12s. And to do that, you're gonna have at least 500 horsepower. Now, how in the world are we gonna do that and still keep it reliable enough for daily use? I mean, you're gonna have something like a supercharger. The problem is, superchargers aren't exactly cheap and just growing on trees in '68. So, what would have been the cheapest engine to supercharge and still get the power that we're after? Huh? That's right, you got it. The small block Chevy. I know some of you guys are thinking, no, you didn't put a small block Chevy in there. You've ruined the project. No, I don't believe it. No. Man, calm down. Calm down. Just wait. Are you done? Now, I have to say, this is one of the coolest things that we've done. Man, the guys on the website have been great. They've come in and they've said nail heads, they've said flatheads, they've said Hemis, they've said big block Pontiacs, Chevys, Fords. It's been fantastic, man. You website guys rock. And the thing is, it's making people think. It's making you wonder and decide what you would do to your car. Now, the thing is, when you take all those other engines, the flatheads, the Hemis, everything, and plug it into this criteria, small block Chevy comes out on top. Mostly because you can get tremendous power out of them for the best amount of money. Now, don't think for a second that I'm just gonna stick another small block Chevy in that car. No, man. I hate that as much as anybody. There's nothing worse than just a boring crate engine out of the crate in a car. Now, man, the key here is to build an engine that looks and feels and acts just like the car. That's the key to a hot rod. So, we went to our buddies at Keith Craft Racing Engines, and this is the motor we put together. Starting with a seasoned 350 4-bolt main block, they stroked it with a Lanotic crank, rods, and blower pistons to bring the cubes up to 383. Then to keep the air and fuel flowing in great volume, they have high-flowing Brodex aluminum cylinder heads, stuffed with stainless steel valves, screw-in studs, guide plates, and topped with roller rockers. Now, sitting on top of an already stout street engine is the crowning jewel. a YN 250 supercharger. And it has got the classic 60s look with the polished finned aluminum case and a 3-inch wide Gilmer belt and the polished pulleys. I mean, all the good stuff. Of course, topping this whole thing off is a pair of Holley blower carbs and a YN blower scoop, which not only makes this engine look the part of a 60s drag racer, it'll run like one too. So, just how powerful is it? Well, as with every Keith Craft performance engine, before they ship them out to you, they run them in and they dyno them. Now, the magic numbers on this particular engine, take a look at this. We are sitting at about 580 horsepower and just under 500 foot-pounds of torque. This is great. That's gonna make that car just insanely fast. And that's all on pump gas, all reliable enough to drive every day. And that is the magic of a supercharger. Not only that, but it looks fantastic. Now, like I said before, if you don't want your engine to look like everybody else's out there, well, you need to spend a little bit of time here on it. Because if you want it to hit an era, well, it's all in the details. Now, we're okay up here. Down here, we've got a lot of modern hardware. So we're gonna cover up that modern hardware with some vintage parts. Come on. These are classic Edelbrock finned aluminum valve covers that we got from Summit Racing. And these are great, man, because Edelbrock makes these just like they did back in the day. Take a look at this. Got the thick aluminum casting, they're nicely polished. They got the ribs that run all the way down the ends. These are great. The problem is, there is no oil filler or breathers on these. So, we're gonna show you how to take care of that problem, just like they did back in the day. Hey, welcome back to Gearz and the Rat Roaster Project, where we have finally let the cat out of the bag and showed you the motor that is going in this wild little roadster. Now, it is a blown small block Chevy, and it's kicking out around 580 horsepower and around 500 foot-pounds. Yeah, that is gonna be one bad little car. Now, the reason that we're using the small block Chevy is that it not only gives us the power that we're after, it also gives us the reliability and the affordability that we needed, and it's also really, really cool. Now, the question at this point is, how do you take an engine like this, where you're using some modern components, and still make it look vintage? Well, the key to that is in the valve covers a lot of the time. So, we're using these classic Edelbrock valve covers because they have the right look, and then we're gonna open them up and let them breathe by putting on these tall moon breathers that we got from Honest Charlie Speed Shop. Now, we're doing that for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is exactly the sort of modification that somebody would have done back then. Second of all, Moon, Edelbrock, and Honest Charlie Speed Shop are all names that definitely would have been on a 60s hot rod. All you have to do is decide where you want the breather. Now comes the fun part. Make darn sure you want to do this. A little tough to weld that back on. Then grind off the fins. Sorry, Vic, but it's for the greater good. And that is how quickly a name disappears. Smooth everything down to give you a good mounting surface. Follow that by drilling your holes and mounting your breather. And there you have it, the late 60s all over again. Now, some of you guys are probably going, man, you know, you're right, that does look like a vintage engine, except for one thing. What about those aluminum heads, man? Nobody had aluminum heads back in the 60s. And you're right, they didn't. So, when I do my final detailing, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint the heads the same color as the block so they just kind of disappear, and that's gonna give me the look that I'm after. Now you might be thinking, oh, painting aluminum, I don't know about that. It's not gonna be a problem as long as you prep the metal good, use a nice high heat paint, it's gonna stick great, you're not gonna have any problem. Now, for those of you that are wondering just how that's gonna look, Take a look at this. Now that's what we're talking about. See what a difference just a little bit of time and effort can make? Now look at this, check this out. Over here you have more of a modern look. I mean, it looks like parts just pretty much came out of the box, and that's cool until you compare it to this. I mean, this has the look, it has the punch, and it puts us in the era that we're after. Now, some of you guys may be thinking, oh, it's easy for you, man. You got the fancy tools, you got the high-dollar paint. Now, hold on a minute, man. Here are the tools that I used. Just a rasp in a drill press. Then I use this detail sander. And as far as paint goes, just a couple cans of duplicolor engine paint, man. This stuff has got a ceramic in it, so it'll not only handle the heat of an engine, but it also won't be ruined by gas and oil leaks. So, if you spend a little time and make it look good when you're detailing things out, you're going to end up with an engine that'll look great for a long, long time. Now, what about the transmission? Obviously, man, it's got to be a stick. I mean, everybody was jamming gears back then. Now, since we are going to drive this car a lot, well, using a modern-day 5-speed is really the way to go here. And Kiesler Engineering has got exactly what you're looking for. They've got this modified Tremec TKO 5-speed. Yeah. This is great, man. This thing has nice, tight shifts. It's got a hydraulic throwout bearing already installed, and it's tough. I mean, this thing will handle the power that engine's kicking out. Now, to go with this, we also got one of their new bell housings. We've got a flywheel, pressure plate, clutch. We've got the master cylinder, hoses, and all kinds of hardware. And that's the cool thing about using somebody like Kiesler on this. They've done all the homework, so you get all the parts. Now all you have to do is put it all together. Hey, we're back, and at one of the best parts of any project. Because it's time to stick an engine and transmission into your project. And this is an exciting time, but it's also very critical, because if you mess this up, don't get it in straight, it's going to affect the project from here on out. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, this ain't right. First, you want to get the engine in place, and to set this engine back far enough to clear the front cross member meant that I had to clearance the firewall to make room for the distributor and the bell housing. Now make sure that you keep your cuts clean and symmetrical, because this will be seen. Perfect. With that done, it's time to roll the engine in place. All right, the idea behind any engine fitting project, whether it's a rod or a muscle car or an old truck or a Jeep or whatever you're working on, man, is to set the engine far enough back to where you can clear the front cross member and the radiator, but not too far back to where you have firewall problems. Take a look at this. This is why I had to clearance the firewall. Now, of course, you want to center the engine side to side, unless, of course, you're offsetting it on purpose for some reason. Then, of course, don't forget, you don't want to go too high and have hood problems if you're running a hood. Then again, you don't want to go too low and have an oil pan problem on the ground. So as you can see, there's a lot of measurements and a lot of pre-planning that goes into a project like this, but it's worth it. All right, with the engine sitting level, centered up, pushed back where it needs to be, the only way you're going to bolt this engine down to this frame mount is to use this special motor mount from Brookville Roadsters. Now, as you can see, this thing is offset, and that is what sets the engine back an extra 1.5 inches and gives you the clearance that you need up here when you're running a supercharger. The next step is to open up the floor to make room for that big 5-speed transmission. At this point, you are ready to set the angle of the engine and build the transmission cross member. Now generally you want the engine to sit about 3 degrees angled toward the rear, but that's on a vehicle that's sitting level. If you're building something that's sitting down in the rear or rake down toward the front like this car is, well, you need to take that into consideration as you build the cross member, or you can end up with some serious drive shaft problems when you put it all together. Now, any real hot rod in the 60s had a serious set of pipes running down the side, and the Rat Roadster is no exception. So we went to our friends at Sanderson Headers and created a special Rat Roadster header that you can buy. Now, the whole idea here was to create a special 2-in-1 functional exhaust system. Check this out. Started with a nice side header exhaust, goes outside the frame rail, down the side, got a nice long tube, it's gonna look cool, and of course, you have a standard header cap. Now, when the cap is on, the exhaust comes out the side, under the car, through the mufflers, nice and quiet. When you're ready to rock, you pop the cap and there you go. Now, I know you guys are thinking, wait a minute, man, there's nothing new there, it's been around forever, what are you doing? You're right, it has been around forever, but there's a problem. Most people never pop their caps off, either because they never intended to, or because they don't want to burn their hands on a hot header cap. And the whole idea behind having this is to be able to pop that cap whenever you want. When the time is right, will you be ready? Well, I can help you with that. I have got a way to go from this little exhaust system to this great big one with just a flick of a switch. And I'm going to show it to you next week. I'm out of time on this project today. But the show is not over. We'll be right back after this.
Parts Bin. Brought to you by Cherry Bomb. Disturbing the peace since 1968.
When it comes to off-roading, having the proper seat is key, or the rig will just beat you to death. The problem is most off-road seats have a rigid back like this, which makes it a little tough to get into the back seat or the storage area or whatever you've got back there. Well, fortunately, Mastercraft decided to do something about that with their Baja RS seats. Now, this is the first reclining suspension seat for the off-road enthusiast. It's great, man. Check it out. It'll go all the way from a forward tilt to a full recline. Of course, it has the adjustable lumbar support for your lower back, and it's fully compatible with all 3- and 5-point harnesses. You got your anti-submarine slot here, and you've got your slots for your shoulder harnesses. Now, just like any other Mastercraft seat, it has a full suspension liner and containment. So it'll not only hold you in the seat, but you're gonna enjoy it while you're in there, and your kidneys will thank you the day after. So if you are serious about your off-roading, but you still wanna carry some junk or some people in the back seat, well, Mastercraft is who you gotta call. There's no doubt that the look of a '69 Mustang with its auxiliary lights in the grille is just classically cool. So cool, in fact, that you can get a grille insert for a newer Mustang that'll give you that look. And that's great if you're driving a Mustang, but what if you're driving a truck? Well, Styling Concepts has got an answer for that in this street scene grille made specifically for the newer Ford F-150s. Check this out. It is not just a grille insert. No, this is a complete grille replacement. You have the outer surround, you have the insert, and you've got these light pods built right in. Now, to go in those, the kit comes with these halogen driving lights that mount right in there nice. Yeah, there's the look you're after. So, you have the lighting that you want, you have the look that you're after, and it all goes in really easy. So there's really no downside here. So if you're thinking about giving your newer truck a classic facelift, Styling Concepts can help you out. When it comes to custom building a vehicle, one of the easiest things to overlook that becomes really important in the end is your hoses. Now obviously nothing off the shelf or stock is going to work, so what do? Well, that's where these CoolFlex hoses from Total Performance come in. The CoolFlex hose is made out of seamless corrugated copper tubing, so you can literally bend this stuff into whatever shape that you need. And if you happen to mess it up, you just straighten them back out and try again. Now once you get this stuff in the shape you want, it stays put. Now the CoolFlex hose is available in different sizes, from your upper-lower radiator hoses all the way down to your heater hoses, and you can get it in different colors other than the chrome, so it'll match what you're working on. Now, to finish everything off, each kit comes with these polished stainless steel ends for a nice, cool, clean look. So what you end up with is hoses that flow fluid like they're supposed to, but look really good while they're doing it. You can thank Total Performance for that.
And now, what are you working on?
For today's What Are You Working On, we are featuring a vehicle I bet you've not seen in a long time. It belongs to a kid named Nate West. He's from Columbus, Indiana, and it is a 1963 Ford Econoline van. Check it out, man. Now, he said he, his dad, and his brother took this thing, smoothed it all down, put in the custom grill, and then put on the cool paint, put on an air ride system, get it down on the ground like you're seeing, and then they finished it off with a vintage set of side pipes and cherry bomb mufflers. Man, that's a hot rod, man. It's great. Now, the look continued into the interior. You've got vinyl upholstery, you've got brown shag carpet, and then, of course, the metal flake steering wheel and all the other stuff. Man, this thing looks like a 60s beach wagon. All it needs is surfboards, man. It is cool. Now, I know you're wondering about the engine. It is not a V8. It is a straight 6 with a 3 on the tree. And he actually drives this thing. Here's a shot of him on Power Tour last year, adjusting the carburetor while he drove it. That is pure hot rodding, Nate. We love it. Matter of fact, Nate sums it all up with this statement. I don't really do car shows, but cruise-ins and back and forth to work are awesome. I'm not afraid of the interstate or rain or to drive it anywhere, anytime. And that's why we're featuring on the show, Nate. Great job. All right, that takes care of it for us today. Now it is time for you to get out there and start working on something. We'll see you next week.